Hey, we're gonna see more maps this time around. But we've seen this one already. Top right, it is herO. Bottom left, Byun. On the map, Waterfall. Which is pretty small. Who I think is gonna win? Byun, I guess. Byun has a way of winning these things, even when he shouldn't. I do believe their final finals series was very much herO favored. And then herO didn't win his third game like he was basically supposed to. Supposed to be a 3-0. And then Byun just dug deep and ended up winning the entire series. So there's something clutch factor-wise for Byun. And then he did also win in their series semifinals last week. So it does seem that Byun just, you know, he's doing pretty well against Protoss. He seems to be getting a lot of practice against Protoss. It's not quite the European server, but I don't know, he's always facing Protoss. And herO is going to mix things up. He's going to go for a proxy gate. I don't think he proxies Cybernetic score. There you go. And Byun, now this is actually kind of funky because Byun, I don't know, last week for sure he was doing a lot of high ground command center, 1-Rex expands, but on the high grounds. Or he was doing a lot of factory expands, both things that would literally save him against a proxy gate. For the most part, things can always get kind of weird. Execution is a factor, as usual. But he's going to go high ground again? Oh, he's hiding the SCP. Now he's going to go high ground. Very weird place to put the high ground command center, though. Not that he was caring about hiding it. He already could scout that his own expand with all of this. Just that now the SCV is targetable if the guy does end up shooting at you. And then I think there might be just enough for a bunker, but that was another worry that I had. Is like, you know, can you not put a bunker there now? Although this bunker would also be fine. All things I'm pointing out because it is actually very important. There is literally a proxy gate. Okay? Otherwise, this is all hypothetical and who the freak cares. But in this case, it is actually what's happening. Beyond an SCV scout, his Reaper's going to come back home to kill a probe. It's just more time that Byun does not realize what's happening. And there you go. Now he knows. Instant response. But there's the problem. One SCV goes down, and then this SCV can also occasionally be targeted. I think it's up here. It can't be. Reactor finishes and will be repaired. Why are the SCVs doing that? Why did they? Oh, you know, he probably did it on purpose so they wouldn't mess up trying to go this way. Yeah, SCVs can derp out pretty hard. That actually makes some sense. I feel that in my Terran bones. But the reactor still goes down, so that's problematic. And the Zella is absolutely looking to tank that shot or help kill it, which is exactly what happens. More SCVs are going to go down. Stalker's starting to target the actual fighting units as the Adept can help take down some of these SCVs. And does Byun just die? Yes, he does. GG. I mean, his command center being close to the wall really had no effect on that, but not being able to save the reactor, it was a little more awkward. You don't see the proxy gate shut up win like that too often anymore. But losing the Widow Mine, not saving the reactor, pretty much the two biggest things that happened. This map's smaller than my bedroom. Healthy water. Man, I only have a week left in Korea. Less than a week. I still have so many things that I need to take videos of. Ooh. Today I might do my Hot 6 taste test video. That'll be enough caffeine. That's for sure. I'm almost done editing my Frost Giant Stormgate opinion video. It's fairly long, but I think it's a topic people are interested in. I do hold myself back from ranting about the cinematic not being great, but it was awfully tempting to. Alright, inside and out. Another map we've already seen. Top right, herO. Bottom left, Byun. Byun did have no scouting. Did not have any scouting. And that mostly bit him in the butts. But then you can still survive in his position. It really has to help. The Widowmine has to help more than it did either actually get a shot on something important or live to threaten a shot to something important. And the Reactor also has to live just to actually pump out 2 Marines at a time. As well as, yeah, continue buying time as far as just literal walls go. And then you have seen people defend in very hectic scenarios such as that. But when everything combines together, then yeah, Byun does just lose. Do I look nice? Because I'm definitely a little hungover. I'm probably going to go to a shopping street that's in Korea and go buy a bunch of like skin hair care stuff. Because, gotta tell you, being in a foreign country and an Airbnb, it is basically not your home, right? Doesn't do wonders for your regimens. Regiments? Either way. I have been trying to get back into exercising as much as I possibly can. I got my little $5 yoga mat, which has worked out pretty well. And then yesterday I even went... I tried to go to a park to run, because running on the street is just really annoying here. And I failed, basically. I went too far on the bus, so I just ended up running back to my apartment, which still got the exercise in. I just had to do it in the presence of people. So I did something healthy before doing something very unhealthy, like going out to barbecue and then drinking. Yeah, balance. You know, balance in all things, guys. Proxy Stargate, and that is a actual proxy. It is closer to his opponents. The Scouts is coming in this time around, though. Byun actually gets his Reaper across the map. We'll see that something is missing.
Apparently you are doing something right,
Maybe.
Captain.
Maybe. Currently running away from the Adepts. Thank you, Vorpal120, for the 4-month resub. So herO now looking to get a lot of distractions so that Byun doesn't have his units in the correct place. So the Oracle still gets some damage done. Byun has gone for a factory expand, which would have made him actually legitimately safe against a proxy gate. And it should make him safe against a proxy Oracle as well. Widowmine would have already been out and helpful, but the Cyclone hopefully comes out in the nick of time to save probably, I don't know, probably like 5 SCVs still going to go down, but then not 8. Let's see. 3. Oh, he's too scared of the Widowmine? Yeah, he could have been more aggressive, but he went for the command center guy, and then he was a little conservative. Didn't want to be locked on, I guess, is really what he was thinking of. And timing-wise, I guess he was pretty spot on. If the Cyclone pops and locks on, the Oracle could possibly still die, and he just wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Could kill on the Reaper, but yeah, that means that they've pretty much evened up their worker kill counts. So yeah, Cyclone did pop in the nick of time. And they both sacrificed a little bit of economy to do what they did. Which I feel is actually, well, I was going to say I feel like it's better for Byun, because we look at the worker count, and that's better for the Terran, so doi. But when you consider that herO has a bit more of a threatening posture with these 2 Oracles, like 2 Cyclones, they stay at home, they're fine against the Oracles. That is very clear. What I'm thinking of is like, well, Cyclones offensively would be scary to the Protoss. They can't go on the offensive, because the Oracles will always swoop in and kill a bunch of units. And then, as far as their follow-ups go, herO did go for a 3-gate, and is making units. So he wants to provide more aggression. So there's still a lot of potential here. Although the 2 Cyclones really does help this time around. If it was only 1 Cyclone, this would be really sketch. Oracle number 1 is going to get popped. Oracle number 2 is going to at least trade out those kills. And now with only one Cyclone that is somewhat injured, and they're already glass cannons, I mean, maybe herO could push the issue. It looks like he is. Yep, that Cyclone is so close to death. The Oracle was starting to zoom in on it. Decides not to go for it. The Marine's a little too scary. The Adept's starting to go down. The Stalker's also starting to go down. Here we go. The Micro War is currently favoring the Terran. Although he does lose the Cyclone at the last second, somewhat lamely. But that's okay. herO did not do the damage he was looking for. He was really hoping probably for an SCV pool at the very least, so he could kill 4 or 5 SCVs alongside some of these key units. Without doing that, his only, again, 3-4 worker lead is not enough in this matchup. And Stim is about to finish as well, as the second barracks came down fairly quickly. I don't know, I think, as I said, there was potential for herO that did not pan out, and now I think herO is just behind. Just straight up not having a good time. Oh, the Phoenix caught this. It would be nice, but it's not like the Phoenix could actually stop it. The Phoenix is going to see maybe a lacking group of units. Again, there's only so much that herO can do to actually stop this stuff. I love his intentions. The shield battery in the main is a very good idea, but it's not done. These units are out of position. These are literally the only units that he has currently. And yes, Byun does just win this one. Just tap out. Nope, he's not going to tap out. It's pretty devastating for herO. He's now behind 9 workers, 20 army, and he's even behind in the upgrade. Okay, there you go. He taps out. Not worth playing this one out. Bing, bang, boom, guys. Super quick. Frost Riders have the production value. It's not about the graphics. It's not even about whether it really matters or not. This is what I'm trying to constantly communicate. There are some people who are still hopeful for the game, which I think you should be. And those people are usually like StarCraft fans who like people who are working. They watch the interviews. Are generally more reasonable people, I suppose. But there is a large group of people who saw that with very limited to no information on what it actually was, why this is a good thing. They just saw a cinematic that was poor. Wasn't good. And no one even knew that it was an Unreal Engine. That was something they had to clarify afterwards. Not that I think that that's really what its problem was. Again, I don't think the fact that it didn't look like a Blizzard cinematic graphic-wise was the problem. It was probably, like, I would say the kind of uninspired character design. The ones that they showed, it was Probe, Nova, Demon, Diva. As well as the poor sound design and lackluster impact and storyboarding that made everyone look at it and go, oh, well, it's not very good. And they chose that as their first impression to the world. It's a bad idea. It was bad. The top left of Stargazers, it is herO. Top right, it is Byun. I think it was a very old school train of thought to have to show a cinematic to get the like point across that this was a this environment and this theme and this and this. I think you don't have to do that. And if you're not gonna wow people with it, then don't do it. So anyways. There's a lot of reasons why they shouldn't have done it. And good on you for just, you know, saying, oh, it doesn't really matter, just as long as the game's good. Good on you. But not good is the world effects first impression. Effectively, it's first impression. I can understand if they were like, let's do a really awesome cinematic and let's show the world what we can do, and then they got the video and they were like, oh, it's not that great. But then I think when you're like, oh, it's not that great, like quickly throw together a bunch of videos of the team working on the project and maybe even mention that they're like, you know, ex-Blizzard developers and they're looking forward to making the next iteration of RTS and concept designs and them in like an office room, you know, talking about passionate things. Don't show that cinematic. And you might say, oh, you're being too harsh. I don't think people really cared all that much. Did you see the response to it? Most of the tweets, again, from people who maybe aren't as even-tempered. You know, because there was tweets where people were like, oh, great, I'm so excited, because they are just generally excited. But then from the people who actually looked at that cinematic and were like, it's not good. There's so many people mentioning that. So many people. And certainly as far as an impact made on the general public, I think there's basically no impact. So you go to, like, the video game forums and subreddits, and they're like, yeah, that was weird. What was it? Oh, it's made by the people who did StarCraft 2. Oh, that's kind of exciting, but that was not that great of a cinematic. Ah, I can write about it quite a bit, actually. Which is really weird, because it's not overall all that important. I think people will eventually forget that it was even the first thing shown. But it's the one thing that I'm super critical about Frost Giant on. Otherwise, I like everything they've done. Anyways, both of them took their naturals. Terran gets a little farther ahead on a natural like this, because they can build off location. But they are building their naturals. And then a 1-1-1 for Byun with a really fast engineering bay. That's actually really interesting. He builds it as a wall. No scout. And then actually uses it. This is very interesting. So he's assuming that it's going to be a Phoenix play. And this is absolutely Byun's experience shining through, because he's played on so many maps like this in the past. They're like, yeah, of course, it makes sense. If it is Stargate play. But we also kind of have Blackburn. And Blackburn didn't really have that much pressure from the Stargate player that you would see a build like this from Byun. Right? So I'm wondering what in particular he's trying to almost experiment with this opener. Improper defense against the Phoenix coming down now, too. What is herO following up with? Just a Forge and a Robo, actually, so he's going to go into Phoenix Colossus. Oh, Widowmine. Oh, he didn't see the other Widowmine. Loses 2 Phoenix for that pickup. That was not good. Now we have a push out that has one of the quickest +1s you'll ever see. I would say in any matchup, but I think there's, you know, CVC has pretty fast upgrades. Certainly in this matchup. And again, these are 40 mineral patches each, so it's not like you're going to mine these out as the attacking player. So Byun trying to hit a particularly fast timing doesn't really work. It's not all that fast. Scan sees no third base. There is a more conservative player from herO, as he did end up going for, as I said, Colossus Phoenix, which is a bit of a slower type of game, not necessarily super dependent on a super fast third base. I picked off the medevac. You could have gotten the third base, and that would have been canceled. Yeah, probably. Instead, he had it on double Forge. So you usually choose economy, technology, or like amount of units. Yeah. That's kind of what happens in StarCraft, right? Well, you can't do everything. So in this case, the thing that is missing is that third Nexus timing. Ooh, that one got a juicy shot.
Resubscription received.
Overall,
Apparently
10
you were
probes
doing
go
something
down.
right,
That was
Captain.
a few Widow Mines. No, it was only 3. I thought it was 4. Medevac, a Viking. Oh, that was killed. A Viking got killed. Or no. Was it a Medevac? Who knows? Anyways, as a Medevac also did die. Warp Prism comes into play. Had a couple of Adepts thrown in to try and get some cheeky kills, but doesn't really work out. 3 SCVs and it lives. I guess that's fine enough. And the 1-1 upgrades are going to finish, but it's such a weird situation because Beyond's 1-1 is also already done. This would usually be faster than the opponent's +1 armor, but not with this build. Thank you, Milius Pro, for the 42 months. Hallucination, just seeing what's going on. Solid third base actually forming into a command orbital. There we go. And the addition of the barracks. Might have been... I wonder if he was at all worried about a 2-base all-in, but it's not on the way, so either way. Cannon? And a shield battery come down? Another shield battery too? What did he see that he was... Kind of surprised by that. It's not that big of an army. And it was 3rd CC, then 4th and 5th barracks. Huh. Well, he's still cranking out 2-2 and trying to make very few gateway units currently, especially because the gateway units, you know, they're kind of expensive if you want to actually build stalkers, and you're building so many other things. And then if you built zealots, they don't have charge yet, so yeah, skipping through those steps. Very high technology, highly upgraded army, but again, kind of a low econ situation, all things considered. Byun is ahead 17 workers. And you'd think that with a slow expansion process like this, herO would at least be able to defend everything. Well, he did lose those 10 probes, and now he's going to lose a disruptor to this drop. There are blinks available. There's not that many blink stalkers, so he might even be losing more to this drop. And herO is just so far behind in the supply, it's just hard to handle things if they get out of control. So if the drops are actually effective, you wouldn't think they would be because 3 bases can kind of be easy to defend, but it is doing some damage, and it's not being punished incredibly hard. Some of these units are leaving, they're coming back, they're doing more damage. I guess the worry for Byun is that eventually they do get punished, these drops do get killed, and then herO goes across the map with 2-2 upgrades, Colossus, and a Warp Prism. But I don't know, I think it's fine. He still has a 40-50 army supply lead. His 4th base is even coming down almost aggressively. You know, it's coming down closer to herO. And I think that Byun is just super confident here.
Resubscription received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
Thank you, T. Campbell, for the 89 months. Damn. That's a long time. Thank you very much. I say that every time, because it has been a long time. And every month is an even longer time. That's how that works. Alright, so here's the push that I was talking about that a lot of Terrans should understandably be afraid of. This guy's timing is the same guy, and it feels like it's on the same map. Enki. Thinking he's gonna have to bow out of casting. Like once is okay, twice it's sus. It's the commence on the attack. It's not gonna happen. But what I was saying is that Terrans would usually be scared of this, especially if they did lose their drops. Again, Byun didn't lose all of his drops, and even if he did, I think his supply was still rather strong. He would have been at 150 instead of 170 currently type situation, which is still pretty damn good. He's covered his bases with tanks also, which really helps against this Colossus problem, because the Colossus do have the range. They can kind of bully. Same with the Disruptors, right? But if the tanks are helping to focus fire with the bio, and the Marauder count is healthy enough with enough medevacs as well, then herO's army does not work out. As we can see here, it is forced to retreat. These 2-2 upgrades won't save you now, and neither will that Warp Prism. The number of Disruptors doesn't even matter, but it's currently at 0 if the last one gets sniped. I think one more popping out's not going to save the day. Perhaps if he still had 4, perhaps if he recalled his robo units, He'd hold, but would it really be thriving? I don't know about that. He's going to lose out in his upgrade lead in just 10 seconds. And while he does have almost a cheeky fourth, I don't know if Byun's going to check that soon. He doesn't have the resources to defend it. That was his last Disruptor shot. Second Disruptor's about to pop out. And he's going to use his Zealot to try and run by and buy some time. But of course that means nothing's defending on his natural. Just the cannon he built earlier and the 2 shield batteries. The tanks are encroaching. The Vikings have landed. And the shield battery overcharge can only last so long. And here those Zealots, they're going to come in and start bothering a lot of the reinforcements, but it's just so much stuff for Byun. He'd have to take the Disruptors to the face on his bio, and then the Zealots can take care of the tanks, which actually, the Zealots are already taking care of the tanks. The bio was not paying attention for a split second. That's also the power of that run by. All the tanks get destroyed. Still a lot of bio left over. The focus fire is going to be good enough, even with that shield battery helping out. And Byun has finally handled the run by as well, only losing 13 SCVs. So, not a big deal. GG. It was a really weird game from both of them, actually, because there was the engineering bay to start things off for Byun. And then herO played a more defensive style than I was expecting. Which still could have been problematic with that Colossus push. But I think Byun was already ahead. And then his tank addition was really nice. Love the hallucinated Colossus. Did it really help that much? Didn't he scan? Whoops. Maybe the Viking shots initially were on the hallucinated one. Might be right about that. There we go. So now we're on Tropical Sacrifice, which is a cool name and it's a cool color palette. Bottom left herO, top right Byun. It's been a bit of a weird best of. First 2 games are super quick. That last game just had some interesting approaches. I just really wonder what Byun's thought process was. I wonder if it was something he was experimenting with on Blackburn as well. Oh, he really wants that probe. Because it was such a strong response to something that he had not scouted. With the missile turret actually being created, the engineering bay actually being created. It's not something you technically have to do. Again, think of all the games seen on Blackburn where Stargate's still a build Protoss do on that map, but you rarely don't see a Terran just blind counter it with a fast engineering bay, fast missile turret, while also getting really fast +1, so... Seems like a new thing that Byun may be experimenting with. And it's coming in coincidentally timed with the new maps, or it's something that he actually designed for that map in particular. Like I said, some of these guys actually got a decent amount of practice on the new maps when they were told, hey, you're gonna have to play on them. And then JK. And then a month later, hey, you have to play on them. Some of them have already been grinding out the new maps, and Byun is certainly someone who plays a fuck ton of StarCraft. A concerning amount of StarCraft, actually. And if you're like, you don't know his life, you don't know what he does. Well, he still is how he's always been. And if you've been following Byun for most of his career, you'll know that he had a very long time where he would stream like 16 hours. Like insane amounts. Back to back to back to back to back to back to back. It's like no wonder his wrist hurts. Even though he says it's totally a mental thing. It's also not generally considered the best approach. It's a very old school Korean pro gamer mindset to just crank out as many games as possible. But I think even they, one, most of them don't want to do that. Just kind of basic, you know, not wanting to do that. And then two, it really is not the best way to improve your game, is just to play a bajillion games. It can help, but if you've done any amount of sports in your own life, or read up on any like sports psychology and training programs and whatnot, yeah, they very rarely tell you to just do the thing over and over and over and over and over again. Especially unguided practice is pretty bad too. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice just makes, what's the saying? Consistency? Habits? Something like that. So you can practice imperfectly and have imperfect play. Anywho, not to criticize Byun. The point was, he does play a lot of games. herO clearly was having problems with the wall off, so he hadn't quite figured that out with however many games he had played. Byun doesn't have the same problems that Protoss does wall-wise, but as far as build orders and positioning goes, I would not doubt that he has already practiced quite a bit. So 1-1-1, no, actually 2-1 into a starport. Third rocks, actually, then a starport. And hero's going into 3 base. Blink is on the way after the Stargate play that so far has not done anything. Cyclone found the Oracle, but the Oracle was able to escape, so decent enough. And that's the update, guys. Didn't Byun do that batshit crazy ghost build? I swear it's a thing. I mean, it's still kind of a crazy build, but... I mean, TUI literally did ghost hellbat builds. That's not new. And they're trying to play the macro version of it. I'm pretty sure it was done. Kind of needs maybe by Byun to be fair, but... I don't know. It used to be that GSL was one of the first times you'd see a lot of things. Now that's not really the case. And now just because the foreigners got better. Just because the Koreans play in so many of these Open Cups. But I could have sworn I saw something similar in Katowice. Or leading up to Katowice? I don't know. Anyways, not at all to do with this current game. Just thinking about Byun's unpredictability. This is a relatively normal build. And herO is providing some aggression. It is 3 gateways, so he could invest a little bit into it, which is what he's currently doing. 3 more stalkers coming across the map right now. Trying to pick off these Marines. So far, so good on that department. The Cyclones have to be super careful, too, because they will be one-shot, I want to say? Close to one-shot. And the Marines finally use that stim, but if they're not even going to catch a single stalker... Oh, they do catch the Oracle. And it wouldn't have been really worth it. I'm liking hero's Blink Stalker aggression so far. Of course, behind it, just continuing to pump out those probes and eventually get to the charge. And he's also going to add on kind of quick Colossus, so he's going to get the gases up. But this Blink Stalker aggression, I think, has really paid off. 12 Marines have been killed, 0 Stalkers so far. Nice. Practice makes permanent. Thank you, guys. 2 minutes to like kicking in. Still perfect on the Stalker control. And at this point, kind of later into the game, it's not like the Cyclones are really the biggest targets. It is really about reducing the bio count. Finally, some Stalkers are going to go down. This little, like, grass thing has really helped breaking these Cyclone lock-ons. Because a lot more Stalkers would have died, but as cool as the Sakura Micro was, the big punish came with the drop into the main base. Byun was like, hey, you're being way too fancy. You're trying to be cool. You deserve to be tripped up. And that's exactly what happened. Single drop into the main, kills 16 probes. And the 5 Stalkers do finally also die. So there's some losses on the front line too. But it absolutely was the probe kills. The probe kills, brutal. Very brutal. herO is not quite set up to just purely build an army. He has to once again rebuild his probe count. How did... He just literally left them? That's rude. Cyclone just left it die. 6 more probes go down. War Prism's going to try and return the damage, but Byun has his sights on it. So he's already responding very quickly. Perhaps 1 or 2 SCVs will die. But Byun even responding correctly brings enough units to deflect that while keeping the rest of his units on the front lines, something that herO is aware of. Still would love to be able to take down some of these Widow Mines, maybe even Medivac's not being paid attention to. Surprisingly, that Widow Mine's still shot. But this Colossus pressure is not quite the same as other Colossus pressures. I always talk about how the Colossus kind of open up the opportunity to be bullies. Well, this is only 1 Colossus, first of all, not doing all that much damage, and it's also without Extended Thermal Lance. No attack upgrade either quite yet, so this is a very temporary scare. As soon as Byun handles the Warp Prism, which he finally has, and brings the rest of his army on the front lines, I think this is a no-brainer. But he's actually not waiting for the rest of his army. So this is turning a little more awkward than I think it should. There's the rest of the army, although it has stemmed up quite a few times. There's only 4 Medivacs. But yeah, the actual army here from herO is not that impressive. Still doesn't have the upgrade. Goodbye, Colossus. And a couple more Stalkers do lose their lives as well. So Byun, I mean, I honestly think that if he had cleaned up the Warp Prism 10 seconds faster and everything was at the 3rd base, herO looks kind of silly. But it was a little disjointed, which is part of the effect. That's why the Warp Prism goes in and the army comes on the front. And so it looked like it could have been something. Still think that Byun's going to be okay with how that went down. He did not lose that many workers, and he still is even a little ahead in workers. He still has the upgrade lead as well. And really, it was just the runaround that hurt the most. The stimming and Medivacs out of juice. Finally gets rid of that Observer, too. But Byun, just because he was doing okay there, doesn't mean that he's like always 100% in the lead. He does still have to worry about herO's aggression. Stalkers continuing to poke and prod. Zealots being set up for an attack. Army ready to abuse any of these chokes in the middle. And herO is going up to a 4th base. Now, Byun is pretty good about choosing the right time to move out. I do sometimes second-guess Byun's decision to not move out. He'll have a 30 supply lead, and I'm like, well, that seems like a good time to move out, and then he'll just wait. It's fine. In this case, he does definitely want to wait for his ghosts, one of which just died. And he wants to wait for his ghosts, wait for the upgrade, and then the command center is also on the way. Doesn't necessarily need to wait for that. He does pick up 4 Medivacs worth of units. Figuring the Observer was not seeing that. He was right. Missile turret helping in that regard. And he scans and sees nothing. And sees nothing seeing him as well. And then gets a big old drop. Big old drop into the main. herO's army is kind of back at home. The Zealots are being handled pretty quickly, and the army was starting to move out, so now it's going to awkwardly move back in. After damage has already been done, there goes 1 Nexus, but I think that at this point, Byun does have to skedaddle. He's going to leave behind a few units in the hopes to escape with the rest of his units, and he kind of does. 1 Medivac did get shot down. Another Nexus looks to be in his sights, but 2 Colossus, I mean, with the micro they have as well, are going to be able to save that particular Nexus, and then that'll be herO on 5 bases, if he can actually save it. The rest of Byun's army is starting to make moves as well, though. It will be 1-1 versus +2, but there goes the Disruptor. Now there's only 2 to fight, which is still kind of scary. He's going to focus fire that one. Saw that one coming. And herO did not have a protective Disruptor shot. I think he's being very, very cautious with how he uses the Disruptors, realizing that this fight could still go really poorly for him if the Disruptors do not do their job. Now with all the Zealots coming in, though, okay, that's a much chunkier army. That's chunky. But the drop into the main is, once again, going to go after some of these structures. I mean, the gateways aren't bad to take out. I don't know about Cybernetic core as well, yeah. I think maybe going for the fresh Nexus would be good as well. Or if we could find the Forges, that'd be excellent. But the attack from the Zealots, they aren't adding into the main army. They went for a bit of a run-by, which, you know, if it didn't get cleaned up so fast, would have also maybe distracted Byun, so this army could have gone in for the actual attack, but the army had to be recalled instead, tried to save the base, was unsuccessful in doing so. The Nexus still falls, but it is a pretty mighty sacrifice on Byun's part. That was a lot of Marauders. All of the Medivacs will die, and it is a bit of tit for tat, but Byun also killing all of those Zealots as effectively as he did. EMP plus Widowmine plus the entire army being there. Nothing else went wrong for him on his side of the map. I mean, that's why he's holding into a supply lead, I think. That amount of charge lots was basically a waste. Whereas at least the sacrifice of these units wasn't a waste. It actually killed the Nexus. Now, was it the most important Nexus ever? No. But it still was a very useful Nexus, because of course he's also not mining off his main. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe eventually back up to 4 bases. Disruptor does get a great shot! Byun did not take that as well as he was hoping for. He almost killed it by looks of things. So he almost did Byun things, but ooh, that Disruptor shot just gave herO a second life. Before it, he was down way too much in army supply. And now he will lose those Disruptors. Not a whole lot left over, just the Stalkers, which do now have upgrade leads, so depending on the numbers, yeah, the bio has to be scared. But yeah, that Disruptor shot helped even out the supplies once again. Byun does have 4 bases, and his 4th is a planetary, and he's about to have his own 2-2 as well, so once again gaining an upgrade lead. Widowmines scattered around are also being quite annoying. We finally have a macro game. Took us a couple of games, but we finally have, I guess, 14-minute plus. Probably evens upwards of 20 minutes. I had mentioned this in a previous game on this map, that this map does seem to kind of encourage... Or wait, no, it's a different map, actually. No, I'm thinking of I think of another map actually. Okay. So as far as this map goes, no, this was herO versus Rex or whatever it was. Okay, yeah, this map kind of seems to encourage staying on each other's side. There's not a whole lot of pushing your expansions aggressively towards your opponent, which depending on the matchup and the type of game that's being played out might be really beneficial. So if your 5th planetary pushes towards the herO's 6th Nexus, then that's a jumping off point for the Terran, right? And they can kind of direct all aggression there. But this map, it really is like, you know, you both have your halves, and then you have a lot of vertical distance to cover to defend those halves of the map, which I think is going to be a bit complicated for the Terrans to defend. The longer a PvT goes, the more that a Protoss can get into the kind of bully position, which is something that herO's trying to do, but it's just a little short on the units. And especially the siege units. Disruptors aren't really siege, Claws not really siege, but distance shooters, I guess. He's a little light on that. The charge lot warp into the main base was quite a bother. Looks like he wasn't sure if he killed the War Prism or not. Got the armory, so it's going to delay any +1 and of course the +2 ship weapons for those Liberators, which is a future problem, but you still want to consider it, so that's nice. Also reveals the Widowmines, which have been annoying for herO up until this point. Supply block also is still in effect for Byun, who's only building 2 supply depots currently. That's not going to be enough. Not for very long. At the very least, his +3 is still on the way, so he'll have, again, an upgrade lead, but herO has recuperated. He's recovered from his Nexus snipes. He doesn't even care about his main base anymore, but now he's up to 2, 3, 4, 5, and now going up to a 6th base. And now the question is, can he take good enough fights? That can still be where he loses this game. The charge lots come in first. Almost got hit by their own Disruptor shots. At least that didn't happen. The Disruptor shots also did not hit the Terran army, so that's concerning. That means Terran army can start making ground. That's a lot of Disruptors, though. That recall was so weird. Okay, I don't even know what it's recalling to. Oh, a Liberator, so I guess that's why it was only 4 Stalkers. Still, nonetheless, kind of weird. Now the recall is out of the equation for other things. Disruptors are coming forth on all sides. I think one just hit herO's own army. Oh, that was not what he was hoping for. That was the too many Disruptor problem, I guess, across a weird terrain issue. And possibly just a new map in general, once again, affecting these players in ways you would not expect. A Nexus falls, and Byun does find himself, I guess, having to be happy with that. The rest of the Protoss army is coming forward. I'm not sure he can actually take it on. especially with the shield batter behind him, the Warpins behind him. The Liberator is going to try and siege up, perhaps to help out, kind of abusing some of this terrain once again. EMPs hitting the Disruptors and just running away from them, being the good old-fashioned way of dealing with it. The Liberator does get taken out, but these Disruptors are not making any shots. Even that one could have, and just wasn't controlled correctly, as herO's kind of all over the place currently. He's handling Liberators, he's handling attacks, he's handling Vikings that are currently bothering his pylon. That stops the Warpins, and now the probes are also going to die. Byun is still only on 4 bases, so he's starting to mine out from his main, from his natural. In fact, he's lifting his main, but herO's going to see that and have an ability to actually bother it, obviously. Just a couple of Warpins is going to be a huge bother. Orbital's not good at protecting themselves. But if Byun can continue being aggressive, forcing herO to always warp in defensively, then that might kind of cover that base for a while anyways. And with a 30 army supply lead and an upgrade lead, and so far so good on the dodging of the Disruptors, maybe Byun can make this work. He goes for the throat, he goes for the Disruptors, he gets most of them, only 2 left over, and I guess they don't have any shots. Now the retreat is in full effect for herO. He's down 40, 50 supply. He picks up the Disruptors in the Warp Prism, and that is going to save them for now. But another Nexus falls, more probes fall. In fact, that's so many probes. That is a huge deal. But here's the harassment. Like I said, the Orbital not great at defending itself, right? So that's going to be an easy target. herO trying to make things weird again, as only being on the defensive was not working out for him, so he's going to try and go for basically a bit of a base trade, mix things up, but a lot of army is back at home for Byun as well. He just has 70 supply lead, so he's going to have army every which way we look. Main orbital does die, putting us back down to 2 orbitals, and if Dark Templar were in the equation, then it might be problematic, but they are not. No Dark Shrine was ever made, something that does seem to be consistent with herO as well. He doesn't often have Dark Templars in his macro PvTs. But anyways, back to the defense of Byun's 3rd base. He had a decent number of bio units, but not quite enough for herO's consistent warp-ins. He's actually really trying to push this point, but the problem is that if he can't even push this one, if he doesn't win this battle, and he did not win this battle, then he absolutely is not winning any of the battles. That was only a portion of the Terran's army. The last Disruptor falls, the rest of the Terran army comes forward, and Byun's army is just drastically better than what herO has to offer. I think things got too all over the place for a little bit for Byun, but then once it kind of controlled down to the attacks down to the south, that's when herO's kind of style, I guess, of play started to falter. Couple of Disruptor shots go differently, and that's not the case, but that is the way it went. It's the way the cookie has crumbled, and Byun will take the 3-1 in this best of 5. G freaking G. That was a fun last game, because the first few games were fun for different reasons. But that was a good macro game. Good representation of how that map might play out for future best ofs as well. But GG. Almost feels like it ended too fast.